Recording in progress. All right. So Brad, why don't you let's how about you introduce yourself? Let's start with that.
Yeah, so my name's Brad Johnson. I am out here on the West Coast. I'm in the Pacific Northwest outside of Seattle. And I have been writing, geez, I don't want to say how long, like 20 years at this point,
20 years.
at some level or another.
Yeah.
Um, I've spent the last 15 years in the world of corporate marketing as my day job to pay the bills and raise two kids,
Yeah.
and finally find myself in a position where for those 15 years I've been kind of splitting my time kind of 80-20 between the thing that had to pay the bills and trying to improve my craft, move that career forward within the entertainment industry, and now find myself at a point where I can swap those percentages
Wow.
and put more effort into uh, you know into writing, directing, and producing. I'm also the founder of the Gray List,
Mhm.
obviously, which started as an idea in 2021. Um, and The first issue or first year of that list was in February of 23. So we just released our third annual Gray List, and it's going very well.
Okay, great. So I want to talk a little bit about your writing, but first let's just explain to people what is the gray list.
So the Gray List, I think the one of the key takeaways is it's not a contest. There's no entry fee. It's not a revenue generating enterprise. It started as a way for me to one give back to the film and screenwriting community, which has always been really strong online, and that I've gotten a lot of value out of. I wanted to try to give something back, but I also kind of noticed over the years that as we continue to try to diversify the types of stories being told and the types of storytellers that we're engaging with, all of which are extremely valuable. Um, you know, when those initiatives were rolled out, age was kind of consistently not always one of the categories that were viewed as an underrepresented community.
Right.
And ageism is a very real thing in every industry. There's a misalignment with youth just culturally, especially here in America, that if you haven't made it by the time you're 30,
Yeah.
uh, you know, you're not going to. But
Certainly in anything creative, pretty much.
yeah, exactly. But there are that's kind of one of our go-to taglines for the Gray List is creativity has no expiration date. There's no end to being creative, and plenty of people are sidetracked by life or circumstances or whatever. Plenty of people have more than one career over the course of a lifetime, so there's no reason to say that someone that's and I kind of just got tired of seeing all the 30 under 30 lists and
Right.
kind of having that perception continue to roll. So really, that's a long way of saying that we created the Gray List to be a curated list of the top 40 scripts, both features and pilots, from writers that are over the age of 40, and in an attempt to shine a spotlight on them as both creators and their specific projects, and just raise awareness on the issue of ageism in the entertainment industry, and give some great writers the opportunity to be noticed by people within the industry, whether it's managers looking for representation or for looking for clients to represent, producers looking for that next project for them to spearhead. You know, there's all kinds of opportunities out there, and a lot of times, getting seen is the biggest hurdle to begin with, and getting people to take a chance on actually reading something you've written. So that's our goal is to
Well,
help.
I can't speak for you, Brad, but speaking as a writer who is over 40, um, it sounds like you're doing the Lord's work here. So, so how's it going? You say you're in your third year. So, you guys have any feathers in your cap, or have you made any introductions, or
So
gotten anything going yet?
yeah, I think the response since we started has been really strong within the community. Obviously, I think there are always our community is always looking for new ways to be able to tout you know uh, an achievement or a placement or something like that.
Right.
But it's been equally well received from the industry, and I think it just speaks to how, despite what we view as the gatekeeping and the hurdles that you have to cross in order to be successful,
Yeah.
the thirst that is actually there within the industry for production ready, high level, high quality content and stories is really there. We've seen that, and I don't have specific names that I can drop, but we've had a good number of success stories. We've had multiple writers be signed by a manager off of being recognized on the list.
That's awesome.
We've had a couple of scripts last year that were optioned
Hmm.
by a producer after reading it on the list. I think we have one project that I don't know how much they want me to talk about it, so I won't drop names. But one project that's gone the furthest got optioned, now has a director attached, and they're out, generating funding. They're in the financing stage of pre-production and development,
Fantastic.
so they can hopefully get it made. And every year it seems to increase. I think the really exciting thing for me is that it's I'm sure like for any business or any endeavor, it's hard to sell the value of something that doesn't exist yet. So that first year is always really iffy.
Sure. Right.
It's but then you try to keep that momentum going from year to year and just see that kind of incremental growth, and your relationships expand and your reputation expands as like being a legitimate source of like, oh yes, I can trust that the scripts that are on the gray list are going to be of a certain quality.
Right.
And the more that word gets out, and the more that that reputation spreads, every year we have more and more industry people that are reaching out to us to ask to be on the mailing list, to make sure that they see the list. They're sharing it with their peers. They're sharing it with their private, development tracking boards that they're part of.
Sure. Sure.
And so we're getting read requests from real management companies that people have heard of, from real production companies with from that have made movies that people have heard of. And I think that's the biggest success is just that the people who are responding to it from the industry side um, they're growing in stature in terms of the types of people that are reaching out and wanting to get their eyes on the list, and it's paying dividends for our writers, which is really what it's all about.
I've always found it odd that there's such a preoccupation in this industry with youth. I've had managers tell me to my face, we're looking for a hot young writer. I mean, if you're not, USC grad student, 23, 24 years old, your value starts to go down in some of these people's eyes. And to my mind, it's boggling because you've got no life experience when you're young. I'm not saying that there aren't some incredibly talented people at a very young age. We've seen some amazing people. Some of them are reading for us who come out of grad school and they're just wonderkins. But life experience and learning to hone your craft over a period of years and decades, actually learning how to do it, that's got to count for something. Like I didn't even learn how to use subtext until I was 50. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. The industry is very much like, we want new stories. We want stories that haven't been told before. We want people with unique life experiences that can craft these stories. Well, the people that have those life experiences are people who have lived and gone through them.
Hmm.
There's only, like you said, like there are amazing writers at all ages. And and I don't want to discount younger writers, but there seems to be this perception that someone in their 20s uh, can write a story about someone in their 40s, but someone in their 40s can't possibly write a story about someone in their 20s. And we're all creative. We're all empathetic. If you're a good writer, you channel empathy and you channel the experiences not just of yourself but of others and of the world around you into the story that you want to tell. And that means that I don't have to be an astronaut to write a sci-fi movie of someone going to Mars,
Doesn't
right? It doesn't hurt, but
Right on. So,
yeah.
okay, so explain to folks how they could actually get on your list. Is there a website? What's the process? Do people submit stuff to you, or how does it work? Is it a referral thing?
So there's one main portal, and basically it is through my website. My website is just bradmjohnson.com, and then within there's a piece of the navigation for the gray list.
Okay.
If you go to the homepage for the gray list, wow, we have an open submission window every year. Usually it opens around late October, early November, and runs through the end of the year. And we really wanted to, because it's not a contest, we don't want to start having to charge. So we're not gonna have readers, because we don't want to have readers that we don't pay appropriately for like their time and what they're and the work that they're putting into it. So the goal for making a curated list is to try to make sure that it's as objective as possible.
Mhm.
And so there are a couple of different ways that someone can nominate. You can self-nominate, and people absolutely should nominate yourself. If you think your script is great, nominate it.
Okay.
But also nominate the other writers that you've read whose pieces that you've loved. So there's self-nomination, there's nomination of others through that portal. And then there is recommendations from other industry people.
Hmm.
So if it's whether it's someone that is running their own script service and really has a client or a script that they love, or a manager who wants to get their client on the list, like that obviously carries some weight as well. And then once we have the pool of everyone who's submitted, then we go through an evaluation process with me and a team of other writers that and other industry people that I've put together to whittle it down, which is a really challenging process just in and of itself. And there's always way too many great scripts, but it's the kind of thing where if we just put out a list of 200 scripts, then no one stands out because
Of
there's just
course.
too much volume, right? So
So
uh,
I know Blacklist sends out questionnaires, to basically every production company in town. Is that something like down the line that you think you guys might have to do?
I think that's going to be something that will eventually get added to what we're doing. I think I always would like to keep the community nomination aspect of it.
Mhm.
Obviously, everything needs to get read and everything needs to get evaluated, but there's something extremely powerful about the script that got the most nominations for this year's list had 24 nominations from their peers, from other writers who just loved their script so much that they
Wow.
deserve to be recognized. And I just there's something really powerful in that to me of people who are trying to break in themselves saying, yes, I would like to be considered, but man, you got to take you got to take a look at this thing over here.
Wow.
And I don't want to lose that. But I do think as we continue to grow and the industry awareness of the gray list and what it is continues to grow, I definitely see some aspect of sending something out to managers and agents and producers
Sure.
to
But
get
but
them.
but here's the thing, as I'm just thinking this thing through, we don't want people to know we're old. So definitely run the risk of being, it's just subtly blacklisted and not in a good way.
There is there's validity to that concern, but I think as if we really feel that there is enough of a stigma to something to be concerned about revealing it,
Yeah,
that actually makes it more important to reveal it, to shine a light on it, to destigmatize it. The only way that any kind of way that people are evaluated negatively, only way to like get rid of that is to embrace it and not agree with the others that it's something that should be shameful.
right. But when you're
And
dealing with, 27-year-old CEs who, basically only like to hire from their friend pool, uh, look, I'm not trying to poo-poo what you're doing. I agree completely. I'm just saying that, it may not be so easy to get that level of acceptance. I hope we
100%,
get there. That would be amazing.
100%, and it's it's an individual choice for each person. I think every every year for the last 3 years, there's been at least one person who I've reached out to individually to just be like, hey, I'd love it if you'd consider submitting a script. And the response has been, I really don't want to hang a hat on my age.
Yeah,
And I don't get I don't get offended by that. I completely understand it. I come at it from a slightly different philosophical approach, but it's a shake hands, and I completely understand, no hard feelings, best of luck to you kind of situation.
sure.
But it's a decision that people should only do what they're comfortable with. We're not going out there and outing anybody for
Well, thank you for that. So talk a little bit about the importance of lists in general. We've seen over the last probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years, the rise of the list as, an extremely important way that the industry knows they need to pay attention to the point where, if you're not hitting one of those lists, it's almost like, it works against you in a way. It sort of does a lot of the managers' work for them in a way. It pre-screens. It's a pre-screen. So, so talk a little bit about that, and how you decided to sort of jump into this particular space.
well, I think it all boils back down to the blacklist, right? Like, I mean, that's that's where it started. Not the website, but the
Yeah,
list
yeah, the
itself
actual list. Yeah.
is where it all started, and proved that there's value in that. But I think it really is just like the value of lists is the same as the value of becoming a finalist in a contest, or anything like that. It's a distinction
Hmm.
of separation from the masses, right?
Right.
It's just we can't guarantee results, but we're saying, in a sea of good scripts, here's a handful of great. And you might want to take a look, if you're looking for great, to see if there's anything in here that's going to fit a mandate or hit your current needs.
Hmm.
And from the industry standpoint, it is exactly what you said. It's a pre-screener, right? Especially like once you can build that reputation of, yeah, it's not going to be a waste of my time. Like, I looked at like four scripts off of there, and they were all like totally amateurish and not ready for prime time.
Hmm.
And once you can establish the the reputation of having that level of quality, then it does become like a way for them to skip to the top of the read pile, right? with
Yeah.
with with hopefully hopefully without having to read through all of the really bad ones. Then they're just like, I can be comfortable in the general level of quality, and now I'm just looking for, does this fit with with the project I'm trying to find right now. From the writer standpoint, it's it's always nice to be recognized, and you get the spotlight and you get to share it on social media and all of that. But I think the real value for lists, just like with contests, is that it's an excuse to reach out. It's an excuse to query that manager
Mhm.
that you're interested in. It's an excuse to query that producer. It's an excuse to follow up with somebody who you've had a conversation with already, and then
Exactly.
radio silent. People are like,
Right.
it just gives you that like built-in, like, I'm not just bothering you, like there's actually some news.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really valuable just in terms of restarting, because no one, I think most people are good natured, and no one's getting ignored out of spite or rudeness. It's everyone's super busy,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And they've got 10,000 things going on, and the thing that wasn't quite right for them is going to fall to the bottom of the pile and not have a lot of their attention. So if you have an excuse to pop back up to the top of their inbox and just say, "Hey, remember me? We had a great conversation, and now I've got a new project that's been recognized, and just kind of wanted to let you know about it." That's super valuable in terms of just networking and relationships, right?
We always tell people, anything you can do to cross collateralize the hype, do
Yeah,
it. And any feather that you get in your cap, whether it's a contest placement or anything, if you've got anything else going on, you've got queries out,
yeah,
you let everybody know about it. And exactly as I said, it gives you an excuse to do that. But I think even more importantly, it's independent third party validation. It's not just me saying, "Hey, I'm a good writer," because that literally has no value at all. As far as Hollywood is concerned, nobody
yeah,
cares. But if someone else says it, particularly if someone else who they know or trust, that's important.
yeah.
Um, whose taste that they've come to trust says that, then that carries some weight. So yeah, so that's definitely an important tool. And as the gray list continues to grow, that effect is only going to snowball. We've seen there's probably what, like 5 or 10 lists right now that the industry does pay attention to, that have all grown in weight over the years, to the point where, like, if you haven't hit the blood list and you're a horror writer, that sort of says you're not quite there yet, possibly. I also wanted to ask you about the management side.
My work with the gray list, there's nothing quite as rewarding as like connecting someone to someone else who can help them, right? Putting two awesome people together who are looking for the same thing,
Right.
and and talking through story has always been a big part of what I do, and helping people more concisely and engagingly tell their stories, write their log lines, market their scripts in those ways of, and that's what it is. Like a log line is marketing, right?
Yep.
It's and that's always been big for me. And now as I've been working on the gray list, and I'm starting to have inroads into the industry in terms of having people on the other side that I can reach out to,
Mhm.
who will take my recommendation on, "Hey, are you looking for anything in this vein? Because this might be a good fit." Or I've got a handful of industry people at this point who will reach out to me when they have a mandate that they're looking to fill, like, "Hey, have you seen any blah 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 type scripts?"
Mhm.
And making those connections is really valuable and really satisfying. So it's something that I'm looking to transition into and add to what I do.
Right.
I've got some connections to do it. I'm growing all of that. I just need to figure out the right way to start and get that first foot going. And that's
Right
kind of
on.
where I am in the
We,
process.
we always tell our clients that you should always, I mean, if you have a choice, you should always go with the manager or agent who will work the hardest for you. And that is generally not going to be someone at a three-letter agency. It's not going to be somebody at one of the really well-known management companies. They can't. Their lists are just too big. and someone who's like newly promoted and looking to build their list and really has to put feathers in their cap and is looking and actually has a bit of hustle, or someone basically someone who still has something to prove. That's your person, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't think you're going to have any problem finding somebody or, 10 or 15 people to jump right in. I mean, that's just, it's the hardest thing in the world is finding someone to advocate for
Yeah.
you. So, as you know, as a writer, right?
Yeah.
So,
And I am a firm believer in the Jerry Maguire, uh, fewer clients, more personal attention, the whole thing that sets off the plot.
yeah,
That is I'm not looking to build the next, CAA or
sure.
anything like that. I'm looking to have a handful of clients that I truly believe in, who believe in me, and we approach story the same way together, and we're working together as a team to get them some traction in an extremely difficult business.